finally revealed the truth about Michael Jordan's darkest secrets. After decades of silence, the real story behind his gambling debts and brutal leadership is coming to light. While Jordan remains basketball's greatest player, his off-court behavior tells a different story. One of deception, unpaid debts, and a leadership style so harsh it broke teammates. Most fans know Jordan as the six-time champion who never backed down, but few know about his lifelong gambling addiction that started in high school. Jordan placed bets on friendly card games as a teenager. An old letter even shows his satisfaction when a prom date paid off a bet she lost to him. In college, he wrote a $5 check in 1982 to settle a pool game debt with another student. When Jordan entered the NBA, his growing wealth turned small bets into massive wagers. He played card games with Chicago Bulls, beat writers on road trips. He even bet on cartoon races shown on the Jumbotron during games. Sources say he would secure winners in advance to guarantee his success. His teammates became regular opponents in high-stakes card games. Jordan operated as a relentless card shark, willing to play for almost any amount. Golf became Jordan's favorite gambling arena. He placed what sources called eccentric and high-stakes sums of money on every round. The peak of his public betting happened during the 1992 Olympics. While the Dream Team prepared in Monaco, Jordan made headlines for frequent visits to the Monte Carlo casino. In Barcelona, he ran late-night card games with Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, and Scottie Pippen. These were the only players with enough money to match his massive bets. Jordan always claimed his gambling wasn't an addiction, but a competition problem. In a 1993 interview, he said his insatiable need to win extended beyond basketball to all areas of life where he could find a contest. This wasn't about money, it was about psychological victory. Jordan needed to dominate every situation, even trivial ones. But Jordan's gambling created serious financial controversies. The worst involved Richard Esquinas, a San Diego sports executive. In May 1993, Esquinas published a book claiming Jordan owed him money from golf games. Their standard wager was $1,000 per hole. Esquinas said the debt reached $1.252 million owed by Jordan in 1992. According to Esquinas, Jordan played the debt down to $902,000. Then Jordan agreed to pay a reduced sum of $300,000. But Jordan only sent $200,000 before Esquinas published his book. At that point, Jordan stopped all payments. Jordan claimed he only ever owed $300,000. He said Esquinas publishing the book canceled any remaining balance, but Esquinas was frustrated over the unpaid amount. He said Jordan did not want the loss and didn't want to give me a W. This shows Jordan's deep hatred of acknowledging defeat, even in non-basketball situations. The discrepancy between their stories reveals Jordan's pattern of managing his public image. He consistently minimized his gambling activities when facing scrutiny. This strategic approach to reputation management was crucial given the negative view of gambling in the early 1990s. Another controversy involved a $57,000 check from Jordan. The IRS discovered it in late 1991 in the bank account of James "Slim" Buhler, a convicted cocaine trafficker. Jordan initially claimed the money was a loan for a driving range, but later he testified in court that the payment was actually for a gambling loss. This early attempt to control the narrative shows Jordan's willingness to lie when convenient. The NBA was reportedly concerned about Jordan's gambling ties. The league was especially worried after Jordan played blackjack at an Atlantic City casino the night before a Bulls playoff game against the New York Knicks in 1993. Jordan admitted to substantial losses from his wagering activities. This period was sensitive for professional sports because of the recent Pete Rose scandal. Rose was banned from baseball for betting on games. In early 1993, NBA Commissioner David Stern appointed Frederick Lacy to investigate whether Jordan's gambling violated league rules. The investigation focused on Article 35A of the league constitution. This rule prohibits players from wagering money on any NBA game outcome. During the investigation, Jordan misrepresented his gambling activity and debts. He initially claimed the $57,000 payment to Buhler was a loan. Only later did he admit it was for gambling. More significantly, he failed to tell Lacy about his substantial debts to Richard Esquinas. This selective honesty during an official inquiry suggests deliberate withholding of information to avoid harsher penalties. Jordan's sudden retirement on October 6, 1993, stunned the sports world. He cited physical and mental exhaustion and said he had lost his desire to play. The tragic murder of his father 3 months earlier was a major factor, but a conspiracy theory quickly emerged, claiming Jordan's retirement was actually a secret suspension imposed by Commissioner Stern. Several pieces of circumstantial evidence fueled this theory. The timing coincided with intense scrutiny over his gambling activities. The Atlantic City casino incident raised questions about his judgment. Most suspiciously, during his farewell press conference, Jordan said, "If David Stern lets me back in the league, I may come back." This phrase invited questions about why he would need the commissioner's permission to return. The early 1990s were a sensitive time for sports integrity. The Pete Rose scandal created anxiety around sports gambling. This made the idea of NBA intervention more believable to the public. Some even suggested a connection between Jordan's gambling and his father's murder, adding a darker dimension to the conspiracy. While no evidence supports the secret suspension theory, Jordan's ambiguous statement and the timing created doubt. The NBA's interest in protecting its biggest star made a secret agreement seem possible. Over 27 years later, no credible proof has emerged, but the persistence of this theory shows how Jordan's reputation management created suspicion. Jordan's leadership style was equally controversial. He possessed what observers called a killer mentality and demanded perfection from teammates. He explicitly stated his win-at-any-cost philosophy. Jordan was willing to ridicule you until you get on the same level with me. His verbal interactions could be harsh and demeaning. This approach led some to label Jordan a world-class bully. A former colleague described him as mocking, belittling, caustic, and rude. They suggested traits of narcissistic personality disorder, noting that Jordan rewarded those who stroked his ego. Jordan's impact on teammates was often brutal. He famously said, "I didn't really care if I broke him. If they did get broken, then they are not going to be helpful to us when we need them the most." This reveals a deliberate approach to team building, where he actively filtered out players who couldn't withstand his pressure. The Chicago Bulls had to trade players who couldn't fit in MJ's leadership style. His methods contrasted sharply with other respected leaders like Larry Bird. Bird encouraged teammates or stayed silent when they struggled, showing too much respect to attack them. This highlights the confrontational nature of Jordan's approach. The most famous incident occurred during a 1995 training camp scrimmage with Steve Kerr. Jordan punched Kerr, giving him a black eye. The altercation was described as mayhem, requiring immediate intervention from teammates. Jordan was reportedly in a bad mood and felt Kerr wasn't taking practice seriously. He also felt disrespected by coach Phil Jackson's decision to give Kerr many plays. Surprisingly, the punch strengthened their relationship. Both players said their bond was actually better than ever after the incident. Kerr interpreted the punch as Jordan testing him to see if he was tough enough. The trust built through this conflict was demonstrated in the 1997 NBA Finals when Jordan trusted Kerr to take the game-winning shot. Jordan led by example, consistently giving 100% effort whether in games or practice. He believed teammates understood he would never ask anything he wasn't willing to do himself. He was often the first and last one in the gym. Jordan viewed his work ethic as play rather than labor, saying work ethic eliminates fear, but his vocal leadership was unforgiving. He called out teammates for lackluster efforts or perceived shortcomings. Jordan understood that winning required collective effort and that his individual brilliance alone wouldn't suffice. His demands created a winning culture for the Bulls. The examination of Jordan's gambling and leadership reveals a singular force: his unparalleled competitive drive. His self-described competition problem and insatiable will to win drove both his high-stakes gambling and aggressive leadership. This drive transcended basketball, affecting every aspect of his life where challenge existed. In gambling, this competitive need fueled his willingness to wager massive sums and his aversion to taking the L. His alleged rigging of Jumbotron bets shows a desire to control outcomes even in trivial contests. In leadership, this same drive created unwavering expectations of perfection and a willingness to break teammates who couldn't match his intensity. The analysis highlights how public perception and media narratives shape a global icon's legacy. Jordan's attempts to misrepresent gambling debts and the NBA's alleged desire for a face-saving retirement show intense pressure to manage public image. The persistence of the 1993 retirement conspiracy theory demonstrates how compelling narratives can overshadow facts when fueled by circumstantial evidence. Jordan's story reveals a complex legacy. He's universally acknowledged as the greatest basketball player whose off-court actions were often controversial but arguably contributed to his success. His career shows how extraordinary talent, intense drive, and relentless scrutiny create enduring fascination and debate. The incidents examined aren't isolated anomalies, but manifestations of an all-consuming drive to win. From financial disputes to physical altercations with teammates, everything traces back to Jordan's singular obsession with dominance. His competitive fire ignited both unprecedented success and significant controversy. At 62, Michael Jordan remains defensive about these allegations. He's never fully acknowledged the extent of his gambling debts or apologized for his harsh treatment of teammates. The man who demands perfection from others has struggled to admit his own imperfections. Some legends lift the game through inspiration and grace. Others win at all costs, leaving complicated legacies in their wake. Michael Jordan's greatness on the court is undeniable, but his methods off the court reveal a darker truth about the price of absolute victory.